Welcome back to the AI Shift with Scott. I'm Scott. Yesterday, I talked with you about who we are and why two people need AI. Today, I'm going to get a little personal about this and talk to you about how I went from a true AI skeptic, and it took only 2 days to flip me. I have one project and one big problem that got me through that transition. I had doubted AI for quite a while because for decades I had been doing my work in a rigorous way. I had this feeling of it being just all this hype, and it'll get the details wrong. How could it be good enough? Maybe you've had that feeling yourself. Well, you see, AI has changed a lot over time, and perhaps if I had tried to do the same things earlier than when I started, the things I was trying to accomplish would not have come out so well. But the timing was really right. I had to do a task that normally takes months of manual work. I've been doing it for years. It was tedious and slow, the kind of thing that I didn't really want to get started, but I knew I had to because I was on timelines. I had lots of ideas how I could do it even better, but I never had the time to invest in those improvements because it just took so much raw amounts of time already. So why did I make this shift, this effort to see if it could solve my problem? There's a big data set that I use in my work, and at the time, there was a possibility being floated about that that particular data set was going to be taken offline for a little while, which meant that when I needed to have access to it, it might not normally been a problem, but I didn't want to play with that calendar and not have the certainty of getting the project done. I didn't know what the likelihood of the inaccessibility would be, but I just couldn't take any chances. So I was thinking, okay, I just need to stay up a couple of nights and start the process and start digging for the data and doing what I normally do to do the downloads from the resources that I have access to. And then I can take it from there. But I had to get the process started. And then I thought about one of the parts of my work that is particularly laborious. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just take 5 minutes here to see whether or not AI could solve a very specific problem I had. And without going too technical here, I had a step in the process where I needed to take a large amount of data and convey it into Excel. And there were things that can be automated in the download process, and it has been that way for a long time. You might have heard of something called API keys. No need for the technical on that. It just meant that there were some barriers to what I could do and how fast I could do it. And then there was a barrier afterwards of what I needed to do with what I did download. So I thought I'd inquire and just see if there was a little bit of a fix, if you will, for what were a couple of my hurdles, my time drains. And in this case, real problems for getting the work done in a timely manner up against a deadline that was being brought forward in the calendar from my normal work. Almost had a couple of sleepless nights on it. In fact, you've heard that phrase. I had never really had that sort of thing much in my life, but there was a night where I was tossing and turning and wondering about this. And that's when it dawned on me that maybe I could just at least inquire and find out a little bit about what maybe could be done. And it led me down the path of, oh, wait a minute, we can do this for you, we being AI, which was really fascinating. So what I did at this juncture was I told it more about what I was attempting to accomplish. It asked me a few more questions to clarify to make sure it was thinking the same way, and off we went. Weeks of manual effort that I was dreading became a couple of hours of data throughput. The data went from not being in my grasp at all the way out the other side to being live on my websites for my customers' access in just a couple of days. And I thought out loud at one point along the process when I realized it was going to work. Wait, I can't believe this. This actually works. The data is actually right. I didn't have a blind faith in the process. I still had my checks along the way that I knew I needed to do. Some experiments, some test cases, some verifications, a few things I did manually, and then a few more. I verified the data. I oversaw the process entirely. I brought all of my expertise to the checking process. I rechecked the data. I checked it again. I checked the output again. And sure enough, it was doing exactly not only what I asked it to do, but what I needed it to do in a rapid fashion. Going from a skeptic to a believer didn't mean turning off my brain. I didn't stop thinking about the process. In fact, it let me use more of my thinking to build more in less time. I had this old model, if you will. It was working very well, and I was repeating it. It was normally what I did. And then while doing this process, I realized how simple it would be to do 3 passes, not just one. Build 3 models, not just one. Very much like I had wanted to do for quite a while and never got around to because it just took so much manual time. So it didn't just dramatically reduce my production time and effort, it tripled my output in that same couple of days. Someone could walk me through the math on what that is on return. I'll just call it a huge, massive win. Count this as an example of necessity was the mother of invention. And after those 2 days, there really was, for me, no looking back. Tomorrow, I'll show you how I go about building my data models with AI. Okay, I promise, right? I have a demography background, but I promise to you, it's going to be about a process. We're going to talk a little bit about how I think through what we do on my end. It's not going to be about all the technical. It helps you think through what you could be doing. It's a mindset that I'm going to help you see, not the details, because you don't need to replicate my work. I hope you can borrow from my thinking. So we're not going to cover individual steps. I promise you that. So in the comments on this video, tell me one thing that you were wondering, like I was, if AI could help you tackle the project. I'll be here again tomorrow, and I hope you will be too.